My family skipped my wedding for a party and said, "It's just a piece of paper." I nodded, left their mess behind, and cut off every dollar I'd given them. The next morning when their world fell apart, my family skipped my wedding for a party and said, "It's just a piece of paper." I nodded, left their mess behind, and cut off every dollar I'd given them. The next morning when their world fell apart, I'd always pictured my wedding day. Not some lavish affair, just a quiet moment in a backyard with wildflowers and the people who mattered at 32 engaged to Sam. I made it real. A small ceremony, 20 guests, a veil I'd sewn myself over sleepless nights, each stitch a promise. I asked my family, Mom, my brother Jake, my sister Kara, for simple things. Some folding chairs, a playlist, a homemade cake. They'd nod, say, "Don't worry, we've got you." And I trusted them. But the day before I called to check, Mom chuckled, "Oh, sweetie, we didn't think it was a big deal. Just a piece of paper." Jake cut in, "Yeah, relax, it's not some fairy tale thing." My heart sank. I stood in my kitchen, clutching my phone, staring at the wildflower bouquet I'd picked from a field that morning. They hadn't done a damn thing. No chairs, no music, no cake. Then I saw it on Instagram. Them at my cousin Tara's bachelorette. Limos, glitter, champagne flutes raised, caption screaming, "Family first." I wasn't invited, wasn't even a thought. I swallowed the hurt, forced a smile, and told Sam we'd figure it out. We did. 10 friends showed up with mismatched chairs from their garages, and I walked to him under a string of dollar store lights that sagged in the breeze. I said, "I do," with my throat tight, his hands steady in mine, and it was beautiful despite them. But that night, alone in our cramped apartment, the dam broke. I sat on the edge of our bed, still in my dress, and cried, not from the joy of marrying Sam, but from the gut-wrenching sting of being nothing to the family I'd carried for years. They'd tossed my day aside like trash, and I couldn't unfeel that emptiness, that sharp, quiet ache of being unseen by the people I'd given everything to. I woke up the next morning with a heaviness I couldn't shake, the kind that sits in your bones after a night of crying yourself empty. Sam was still asleep, his breathing soft beside me, and for a moment, I wanted to pretend yesterday hadn't happened, but my phone buzzed on the nightstand, pulling me back. I didn't want to look. I knew it'd be them, but I grabbed it anyway, my fingers trembling as I opened our family chat. I typed fast before I could second-guess myself. "You skipped my wedding for Tara's party. I needed you there and you weren't." My pulse hammered as I hit send, waiting for anything to make it right. Mom's reply came first. "Don't overreact, honey. It's just a formality, not some big production." Cars followed. "Geez, we didn't think you'd freak out over it." "Chill? Jake?" "Nothing. Just that little scene marker mocking me from the screen." I stared at their words, my chest tightening, and something snapped. This wasn't just about a missed day, it was years of me pouring myself out and them taking it like it was nothing. I thought of Jake's late-night calls begging me to cover his rent when his DJ gigs dried up. $600 here, $400 there, always with a "you're the best sis." Kara's sob stories about needing her phone bill paid after another breakup, $80 a month. Like clockwork, Mom's quiet hints about her meds when her paycheck ran short, $1.50 wired without a question. I'd been their anchor, working extra shifts at the diner, skipping vacations, telling myself it's what family does. And now my wedding, my one moment, was just a piece of paper to them. The hurt burned into anger, hot and sharp, and I couldn't hold it in anymore. I typed one last message. "Thanks for showing me where I stand." My thumb hovered over the send button, then pressed it before they could respond. I tapped those 3 little dots next to the chat name and hit leave group. The silence that followed felt like a deep breath I hadn't taken in years, but I wasn't done. I opened my bank app, the glow of the screen cold against my face. Jake's Netflix account tied to my card for 2 years, canceled. Kara's latest Venmo request, $50 with a gas pump emoji, declined. Mom's autopay for her utilities, the one I'd set up when she almost lost power last winter, stopped. Each tap was a cut, severing the ropes they tied around me. I didn't feel guilt, not like I thought I would. Instead, my chest loosened like I'd been holding my breath for a decade and finally let it go. I set the phone down, hands steady now, and leaned back against the headboard. The room was quiet, just the of the fridge in the distance, and I realized I'd been waiting for this, for permission to stop being their everything. Sam stirred then, rolling over with a sleepy squint. "You okay?" he mumbled, his voice rough. I looked at him, his messy hair, the way his eyes softened when they met mine, and felt a flicker of something warm. Something mine. "I will be," I said, and meant it. He sat up, resting a hand on my knee through the blanket. "You don't owe them, you know. Not a damn thing." His words sank in heavier than they should have because I'd never let myself believe them before. I'd always thought love meant giving until you're hollow. That family meant carrying their weight, no matter how much it crushed you. But sitting there with Sam's hand grounding me, I saw it differently. They'd taken my trust, my time, my money, hell, my wedding, and given me scraps in return. I nodded, slow and sure, and he pulled me into his chest. I didn't cry this time. I just let myself rest there, feeling the first real crack in the wall I'd built to keep them in and me out. It wasn't peace. Not yet, but it was a start. A jagged little edge of something new. The next morning hit like a freight train. Not with noise, but with a flood of texts lighting up my phone before I'd even poured my coffee. I sat on our faded couch, Sam still in the shower, and watched the screen glow with their desperation. Jake first. Yo, Netflix is down. What's wrong with your card? Then Kara, I can't get to work. I'm out of gas. Send me $40 now. Mom's came last, her tone sharp. My lights flickered all night, and the heat's acting up. Why'd you stop the payments? I didn't reply. I just stared at the messages stacking up, each one a little more frantic, and felt the strange quiet thrill. Like I'd flipped a switch. They didn't know I had Sam patted out towel around his neck and glanced at my phone. They're losing it, he said, a half smile tugging at his lips. I nodded, setting the phone face down. Let 'em, I said, and meant it. For once I wasn't running to fix their messes. Then my phone pinged again. Not a text, but an Instagram notification. I shouldn't have looked, but curiosity got me. It was Jake's story. A selfie with Tara, both grinning under neon club lights, captioned, "Real family shows up when it counts." The timestamp hit me like a slap. 8:47 p.m. Right when I'd been saying my vows under those sagging lights, my voice shaky, but sure. He'd posted it last night, hours after I'd left the chat, like he wanted me to see it. My throat tightened, and I scrolled the comments. Cousins liking it. A few yes and hard eyes emojis. No one mentioned me. No one asked where I'd been. I'd been erased, not just from their day, but from their story turned into some footnote they could mock. I dropped the phone on the cushion, my hands clenching into fists. Sam saw my face and sat beside me, his damp shoulder brushing mine. "What now?" he asked, voice low. I showed him the post and his jaw tightened. "That's low even for him," he said. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling, and let the anger simmer. I could have texted back, called them out, but what was the point? They'd twist it, say I was dramatic, oversensitive like they always did. Instead, I pictured it. Jake scrambling when his Hulu wouldn't load mid-binge, car stranded at some gas station, Mom fumbling with a flashlight when the power dipped. They'd built their lives on me, on my overtime checks, my sure. I'll help every time they stumbled. And now the ground was giving way. I'd spent years stitching their safety nets while they danced on tightropes, never once looking down to see who was holding the ropes. And what did I get? A wedding they didn't show up for, and a brother who'd rather flex for Tara than lift a finger for me. The Instagram post wasn't just salt in the wound. It was a knife, and he'd twisted it with a smile. Sam's hand found mine warm and rough from his warehouse job. "They're not worth this," he said, his thumb tracing circles on my knuckles. "You've given them enough." I turned to him, his hazel eyes steady, and felt a pang, not just hurt, but something fiercer. He was right. I poured myself into them until I was hollow, thinking that's what love looked like. But love doesn't leave you invisible. It doesn't post selfies while you're promising forever to someone else. I squeezed his hand back harder than I meant to. "I'm done carrying them," I said, my voice firm for the first time in days. He nodded, pulling me against his side, and we sat there, the phone silent now, their pleas unanswered. Outside, the world hummed, cars passing, a dog barking down the street. But in here it was just us, and the weight I'd shed felt like a victory. They could panic all they wanted. I wasn't their savior anymore. And that Instagram post, it only proved why I'd stopped the quiet after cutting them off, didn't feel real at first. Like I was holding my breath, waiting for the guilt to crash in. Didn't. Instead, I sat on our balcony that afternoon, a chipped mug of tea in my hands, and let my mind drift back. I needed to understand how I'd gotten here. How I'd let them hollow me out until my wedding became just a piece of paper. It started when I was 17, the year Dad walked out. Mom was a mess, crying into her coffee, bills piling up. So I got a job at the corner store, ringing up cigarettes and candy bars after school. I'd slip her my paycheck saying, "It's fine, I don't need much," and she'd hug me, call me her rock. Jake was 15 then, sneaking out to DJ basement parties, and Kara, 19, was chasing some loser who'd crash her car and leave her stranded. I was the one who held it together, the one who didn't break. By 21, I'd saved enough for a beat-up Toyota while they floundered, Jake spinning tracks for empty rooms, car bouncing between dead-end jobs and worse boyfriends. The ask started small. "Can you spot me $100 for rent?" From Jake, or "I'm short on groceries." Just this once from Mom. I'd say yes because they were family because I could, but once turned into always. I pick up extra shifts, skip nights out while they leaned harder. Jake's $100 became $1,000 when he swore he'd make it big someday. Kara's groceries morphed into $300 for fines after she totaled her car, drunk. No insurance. Mom's utilities, her meds, her just until I'm back on my feet. It added up. I stopped counting after 25,000, but I kept a mental list. Every late night wire, everyone you're a lifesaver that faded to silence. They'd praise me. You're the strong one. The glue until it wasn't praise anymore. Just expectation. When I met Sam at 29, something shifted. He saw me. Not the fixer, not the bank, just me. We built a life in our tiny apartment, and when he proposed I let myself want something, a wedding, a day that was mine. I told them about it over dinner one night, my voice shaky with hope. Mom smiled thinly, said, "That's sweet, but you'll figure it out, right?" Jake smirked. "Sounds chill. No big deal." Kara didn't even look up from her phone. I should have seen it then. Their nods were hollow, their interest fake. But I kept going, planning alone, asking for scraps of help they never meant to give. Kara's wedding was different. Her third engagement, a circus of tool and catering they all RSVP'd to without blinking. I'd Venmo'd Mom $200 for gas to get there, not knowing it'd be the same weekend I'd need them. My day was too small, too quiet, not shiny enough to matter. Looking back, I saw the pattern. I'd been their crutch so long they forgot I could fall. Jake never made it. He crashed on friends' couches, texting me for Hulu passwords. Kara's messes got messier, DUIs, evictions, and I'd clean them up thinking it proved I was good. Mom leaned on me like I was her second chance, not her daughter. They took my money, my time, my trust, and gave me nothing but weight. Sam changed that. He'd cook me dinner after my shifts, ask about my sketches, remind me I wasn't just a means to their ends. My wedding was my line in the sand, my first real ask, and they couldn't even pretend to care. Tara's night got limos and cheers. Mine got shrugs and a slap on Instagram. I sipped my tea, the steam curling in the cool air, and realized I'd been blind, not to their flaws, but to my own worth. I thought love meant bleeding dry for them. That family meant carrying their failures on my back, but it doesn't. It never did. And out here with the city buzzing below and Sam's laugh drifting from inside, I knew I wasn't going back to that lie. For days after I cut the cord, they showed up unannounced like a storm rolling in. I was in the kitchen, chopping onions for dinner. When the doorbell buzzed hard and fast, Sam raised an eyebrow from the couch, but I knew who it was. I wiped my hands, took a breath, and opened the door. Mom marched in first, her face tight with that disappointed teacher look she'd perfected. "This tantrum of yours has gone far enough," she snapped, arms crossed. Jake slouched behind her, hoodie up, sprawling onto my armchair like he owned it. Kara came last, tossing her bag on the counter with a huff, her eyes sharp. "You're seriously mad over a little party?" she said, voice dripping with scorn. I stood there, knife still in hand from the cutting board, and felt the air thicken. They hadn't come to apologize. They'd come to demand I fix their chaos. Like always, I set the knife down, slow and deliberate, and faced them. "It wasn't a party," I said, my voice low, but steady. "It was my wedding. You chose Tara's night over me after I've carried you all for years." I stepped closer, the words spilling out. "Jake, I've paid your rent, your subscriptions, thousands. Kara, your fines, your phone, your excuses. Mom, your bills, your meds. Every time you couldn't manage, I asked for one day one and you couldn't even show up." Their faces froze, caught off guard, but I wasn't done. "You didn't forget. You decided I didn't matter." Silence hung heavy, and then Mom waved a hand like she could dismiss it. "We sold your veil on eBay," she said, casual as if she'd pawned an old lamp. "Figured you were done with it after the fuss." My veil, hours of stitching, my quiet pride gone for $25, my vision blurred, but I held my ground. Kara snorted, leaning against the counter. "And I used your venue deposit for Tara's gift," she added, smirking. "You weren't using it, so I got her that spa package. $200 well spent." My breath caught that deposit was my savings, my trust, and she'd swiped it like it was spare change. I gripped the counter's edge, fury boiling up. "You stole from me," I said, voice shaking now, "both of you." Jake finally looked up, annoyed. "Chill, it's not that deep. You're acting like we killed someone." Mom nodded. "You're blowing this out of proportion. We're family, not your enemies." I laughed, sharp and bitter, and it startled them. "Family," I said. "Family doesn't ditch you, sell your stuff, steal your money, then act like you're the problem." Lila walked in then. She'd been in the bathroom, heard it all. She stopped short, eyes wide, then stepped beside me. "You're unbelievable," she said, glaring at them. "You treat her like a damn ATM, and when she stops giving you pull this selling her veil?" stealing her deposit. Her voice shook with anger. I hadn't found yet. You're not family. You're parasites, Mom snapped. Stay out of this, Lila. But Lila shook her head. No. I've watched her bleed for you and I'm done. She grabbed her jacket and walked out, the door clicking shut like a gunshot. I turned back to them calmer, now cold. I'm not your bank anymore. I'm not your fix. Get out. They didn't move at first. Jake scoffed. You're gonna regret this. Kara rolled her eyes, snatching her bag. So dramatic. Good luck without us. Mom lingered, her mouth opening like she wanted to argue, then closed it. You'll come crawling back. She muttered and followed them out. The door slammed and the apartment went still. Sam stood up, crossing to me in 3 steps, his hands finding my shoulders. You okay? He asked, searching my face. I nodded, slow, the weight of their words, their actions settling in the veil, the deposit, their entitlement. It wasn't just betrayal. It was theft, deliberate and cruel, but standing there with Sam's warmth against me, I felt something solid. I'd faced them, named it, and sent them packing. The sting was there, raw and deep, but so was a spark, a fierce, stubborn thing that said I was done bending. The days after they stormed out stretched into weeks and their world started crumbling piece by piece. Like a house of cards. I'd stopped holding up. Jake's power got shut off. I heard from a mutual friend. He was couch surfing again. Cursing my name. Kara's car got towed after she couldn't pay the lease. She left me a voicemail, voice shrill. I'm stranded. This is on you. Mom's phone went dark. Her text replaced by a single email. Heat's out. Bills are piling up. How could you do this? I didn't respond. I sat on our couch, legs tucked under me, and let their words bounce off the walls without sinking in. Sam watched me from the kitchen, stirring a pot of chili, and said, They're figuring out life without you. I nodded, a small smile tugging at my lips. About time. I said, and it felt true. Their chaos wasn't my burden anymore. I'd handed it back and they didn't know what to do with it, but it wasn't all silence. Kara called again a week later, her tone softer, cracked. I'm sorry. I screwed up. Okay. I shouldn't have taken that money. I listened, finger hovering over delete, and let it play out. I'm in a mess now and I get it. I leaned too hard. Her voice broke, but I didn't call back. Jake took a different tack, posted a rant on Twitter. Some people turn their backs on blood over petty shit. Loyalty's dead. It got 3 likes, 1 from Kara. Mom sent a letter, handwritten, shaky, saying, We're struggling, but we're still your family. Think about that. I folded it into a drawer unopened after the first line. They wanted me to feel it, to cave, but I didn't. I'd spent years drowning in their guilt trips. This time I stayed on shore, dry and steady. Then the light came. Lila texted me daily. Memes at first, then you deserve a real celebration. She and Sam's brother, Tom, planned a late reception. Just 12 people, folding tables in Tom's yard, fairy lights strung up like stars. I wore jeans, Sam in a flannel, and we danced to a playlist Lila made, laughing when the speakers crackled. No one asked for money or favors, just showed up, hands full of potluck dishes and hugs. Later, a package arrived at our door. No note, just a quilt, soft and blue, stitched with tiny stars. I knew it was from Mia, Jake's ex. She'd always been kind, even when he wasn't. I draped it over our couch, ran my fingers over the threads, and felt my throat tighten. Not from pain but from this quiet proof. I wasn't alone, not really. Tara texted too, out of the blue. Sorry, they're awful. I should have said it sooner. I typed back thanks and left it there. A small bridge I didn't need to cross yet. Their mess kept spinning. Jake lost his DJ gear to a pawn shop. Car's job fired her for no shows. Mom's landlord sent warnings, but I didn't flinch. I walked our apartment one night, Sam humming behind me as he washed dishes, and felt the air shift. No buzzing phone, no late night please, just us, our little life pieced together without their weight. I stopped by the window, looking out at the streetlights flickering below, and realized I wasn't waiting anymore. Not for their apologies, not for their change. Lila's laugh from that party echoed in my head. Mia's quilt warmed my hands, and Sam's voice pulled me back to now. I'd built something small, messy, real, and they couldn't touch it. The veil was gone. The deposit too. But what they'd taken didn't define me anymore. I turned to Sam, his sleeves rolled up, and joined him at the sink, bumping his hip with mine. You're humming off key, I teased, and he grinned, splashing me with suds. For the first time in weeks, I laughed loud, free mine, and knew I'd made it through their storm. Not just intact, but stronger. It's been 8 weeks since I shut the door on them, and I'm not just surviving. I'm alive in a way. I never knew I could be the apartment's quiet now. No buzzing phone pulling me into their crises. Sam and I dance in the kitchen to old rock songs. Mia's quilt draped over the couch like a hug. Lila drops by with paint swatches for our walls, insisting teal's my color, and I've started sketching again. Wildflowers, faces, things I'd forgotten I loved. The sting of the veil lingers. Kara's theft bites. Jake's post flickers in my mind, but I don't bend. I stand taller, shoulders loose, breathing easy. Kara's texts trickle in. Hope you're okay. Miss you. But I don't reply. Not out of spite, just clarity. I'm not her lifeline anymore. Jake's Twitter rants about fake family fade to silence. No likes to fuel him. Mom stopped reaching out, her absence loud but final. I don't miss the weight they tied to me. If I have a kid someday, I'll tell them the truth. Love isn't a debt you owe. Family isn't a chain. I've built mine here. Sam's steady hands, Lila's fierce loyalty, Tara's quiet amends, even Mia's quilted kindness. I'm not the bank, the fixer, the invisible sister. I'm me whole for the first time. Last night, I stood in our bedroom, the lamp casting a warm glow, and felt it. Safety, not from promises or backup, but from knowing I've got myself. They called me selfish, dramatic, cold, and I took it, carried their labels until I saw them for what they were, lies to keep me small. I'm not the villain for choosing peace, for guarding this life I'm building with Sam. I'm the one who walked through their fire and came out unburned. They're still out there, spinning their chaos, but it's not my story anymore. I wake up light, no guilt whispering. I failed them. Sam says I smile more, and he's right. I feel it wild and free. I chose me, and if that's the crime, they'll never forgive. I'll wear it proudly. This is my legacy. A spine, a heart, a life that's mine. Thank you for watching the video. If this story touched your heart, please share your thoughts below. Your like may seem small, but it gives me the strength to keep creating every single day. See you in the next video.